Hey guys, sorry it's been a while since the last did a video. It's just with life and obviously matters concerning my mother, so health. It's been taking up a lot of my time. But anyway, it's now Bank Holiday Sunday. I have time free on my hands, so I thought I'd do a quick inbox review from one of my kits from one of my from my stash. And this being the Revell Airbus A319, which you can do in British Airways Trafalgar scheme, or you've got German Airways, which is now unfortunately defunct. This kit itself, the kit number is 04215. It's no longer in production, sadly. However, you can still obtain a few of these on eBay if you source them on there. I mean, admittedly, some of them are going ridiculous prices, but I got myself a good deal on this one, which was about a year ago. I did have one previously to that, but I had to sell it off because of needs must, unfortunately. But I managed to get one back in stock, which is good news. The A319 itself was a derivative of the A320 Airbus family, whereby the A320 first flew back in 1987. This is a little sort of a shortened version of the aircraft, which has proved very popular with most airlines, who've basically taken it on, sort of like budget airlines, etc. BA was one of the flag carriers to take it on, along with Air France and German Airways, as well as EasyJet, etc. I don't think there's a lot of them flying these days because some of them have now been converted into sort of cargo carriers, etc. I think out in the States they're still quite proliferant. This is the CEO version. They were doing a Neo version, but there is no sort of history into that because I've actually looked at the history of this aircraft as well. So whether that went ahead or not, I am uncertain. I don't think it did in the end due to cost issues, and it didn't prove as popular to buy as its original predecessor. Henceforth, this actual aircraft, which I'm going to be depicting, which is Papa Jericho, which is one of the heritage aircraft that British Airways specially painted back in 2019 for its 100th year anniversary from its original origins. Basically, there were 4 aircraft which were used. There were originally going to be 6, but for cost reasons, the other 2 didn't go through, sadly. Because they were going to do an original 50s version of an A3, a Boeing 777 as the original BOAC scheme, which was used on the 707s back in the 50s, but that never materialised, and they were going to do another 319 in this BEA Speed Jack, one with the Union Jack on the back, with the blue tail, which was depicted on most Tridents during the late 60s come early 70s until the amalgamation of BOAC and BEA in 74, which became British Airways. So yeah, they were at 4 aircraft, 3 jumbos. One was done in the BOAC scheme, which sadly is no longer with us because it sadly was scrapped last year. Which I think is a great travesty because that was the very last 747 to fly in the British Airways fleet. And then obviously you've still got the other 2 jets which are still in existence, one being the Landor scheme, which is now at Dunsfold, along with its sister aircraft in the Trafalgar scheme, which is now used for filming work. I think you can do tours on the actual jumbo itself, although Dunsfold as an airfield has now been closed because it's being redeveloped into a housing estate, which again I think is a very big travesty. But I should probably end up going off on another rant, and I don't want to do that. The Negus aircraft is still in existence, I think still at Cardiff, which is hired out for parties, etc. now. So the only one that's still flying is the little BEA Retrojet, which is the aircraft I'm going to depict this in. Not only that, because it's got a personal connection to me, because my dear friend of 30 years or more, Alan Harrington, was a purser on that aircraft a few times and flew with British Airways from 1990 up until 2020. Was it 2021 he retired? I can't remember. So yeah, that's the personal connection to this jet. And obviously I've seen it a lot on the live coverage of Big Jet TV when it's flown in to Heathrow, etc. The actual aircraft I'm depicting, as I say, was painted especially around about 2019 for the Jet Heritage to celebrate British Airways' 100th anniversary. And it flew until around about November 2022, when it was put into storage at Madrid in Madrid, but then was taken out of storage and is still currently flying from around about July 2024, and it's, as I say, it's still flying to this day. And I'm hoping that they will preserve her, because if they end up scrapping her, again, that would be a big shame. I'm hoping she's going to fly to a museum, preferably Duxford, because that would be nice for her to sit alongside all of her magnificent predecessors along the flight line at Duxford. But one can hope. Anyway, the A319 itself entered British Airways service in around about 2004. Particularly the jet I'm depicting, and it's been very popular on the routes, as I say. I don't think they've got very many left now, except the retro jet. So there you go. Obviously a lot of them have been replaced with the A321 and A320 Neo, which has obviously got more uprated, powerful engines and more economical to operate. The one I'm depicting here is the CEO version, without the winglets. They did put a proposition through for an A319 Neo. I don't know if that got any further. If anybody knows about that, just leave a comment in the comments column. I'll be interested to find out. Anyway, this kit, as I say, is now out of production. It was brought out by Revell, I think, in around about 2020. And the box art on the front is beautiful, depicting the classic lines of the 319. Believe it or not, I do remember seeing the prototype fly at the Farnborough Air Show in 1994. So yeah, I did actually see this prototype of this aircraft fly there, along with some of the other demonstrators that were there at the time. Anyway, I'm waffling, let's get on with the review. This kit, as I say, is now out of production. You can obtain it on sources on eBay. Whether they're going to reissue it again, I have no idea. Kit number, as I say, is 04215. Okay. You've got some photographs of the actual aircraft depicted on the box as a reference. And then obviously you've got the box art on the side with the two alternate versions you can do. Now obviously both of these have got different power plants on them as well. Little history about the aircraft on the side of the box, and it's an open-ended box, which obviously I know people today is not the most popular. You get one bag of sprues, obviously, and then obviously we've got the decals, and then the instruction leaflet. Obviously got a little bit of history about the aircraft on there, a print of the actual box art illustration with the two schemes that you can do for the kit. And then opening up, it's in pamphlet form, as was the case with typical Revell kits of the time. All the various symbols which you see there. Okay, and then obviously the colour call-outs. Again, I would possibly go for the Hobby Colour app and just see where you can source the colours. This with the trouble with Revell paints is you got so many percentage of this and so many percentage of that. I can't be arsed with doing that. I'd rather look it up using another manufacturer's paint that's nearest to it. Then you got a map of the sprue trees, so you can check that everything is there in the box. And then the first stage is obviously putting the undercarriage bay in along with the nose wheel. And there's a colour call out for the APU or auxiliary power unit. You need 20 grams to go in the nose to weight the aircraft, otherwise it's going to be a tail sitter. And then just basically close the fuselage up. Okay. Next off is the assembly of the wings, the upper and lower wing sections. And again, you've got the detail for the undercarriage bays for the wheel bays. And then obviously you put the tail planes and the wings onto the fuselage. And then basically put the winglets of the CEO at the end of the wingtips, along with the landing lights. And then obviously you've got the clear part for the cockpit. Now obviously you've got to study, make sure whichever version you're depicting, you're going to put the correct engine on it. You've got the choice of an IAV 2500 engine or CFM 56 engine. Now I think basically with BA they have IAE engines on their CEOs. Correct me if I'm wrong. And that's the assembly of the engines that you can see with the end of the exhaust stub. And then you got the blades that go in, and then both the engine halves are basically buttoned up. This, I'm not quite sure what this is supposed to signify. Not sure. Oh, that's the exhaust stub. Right, beg your pardon. For the CFM 56. And then the assembly of the engine there. Okay. Then obviously, depending on which version you're doing, you put the engines onto the wings, and then basically the wheels go onto the front and undercarriage leg. And the next stage is fitting the main gear, as you can see there. Okay. And again on the other side. Then you just put the pitos onto the aircraft, up the fuselage and on the lower fuselage, and then I think basically the kit is done. Now obviously you've got two options if you're building it from the box. You've got an A319 of British Airways in the standard Trafalgar scheme. Obviously you've got the colour call outs there and the indication of where all the decals and obviously the stencils go. And then obviously the colour call outs at the bottom there. And again with the A319 German wings version, which looks like a rather interesting colour scheme, I must admit. Again, you've got the colour call outs at the bottom there, along with the stencils, etc. Okay, and that is basically your kit done. Now, you got, as I say, you've only got one bag of sprues, and Sir, being as prepped as usual, forgot the scissors. So bear with me a minute, guys. I'm just going to go and get some scissors. I don't know why I do this to myself. I'm always like this. Yeah, I've got a nice little black kitty looking at me. Probably wondering what I'm doing. Anyway, enough said. Right. Okay, let's open the bag. It's the first time I've unsealed the bag. That is done. Basically, you've only got two sprues. First sprue, you got the fuselage halves there. All in white, obviously. Now to make this look solid, I would suggest you paint the interior black. Okay. And again, you've got some nice recessed panel lines on the fuselage halves here. As you can see there, beautifully engraved. And then obviously you've got some of the gear assembly there, along with the undercarriage doors. Undercarriage wheels, which are nicely moulded. Not much detail. I might go for some aftermarket wheels, I don't know. Pitos, which go onto the fuselage. Main gear. Again, you can probably weather them up a little bit. Very nice details, I say. Actually, let me just get that in a bit more. It might focus a bit better. So there you go. And again, you've got the other fuselage half there. Now, unfortunately, there's no detail in the cockpit, so what you may have to do is, I think on some of the cockpits they're tinted, so that's possibly what I might do with mine. Unlike Zvezda, where they actually do cockpit interiors. Now, obviously the second sprue, you've got the CM56 engines and the IAEs, which you can see both halves there. Again, there's some nice panel line detail there. Beautifully sculpted. No flash. And obviously you've got the upper wings there. Nice panel line detail, which would come out with a wash. And the tailplanes again, and obviously on the other side you've got the detail there with the undercarriage bays, which are pretty much good. In fact, they've actually moulded all the actual brake cables, etc., and hydraulic cables in there, which is nice. And then obviously you've got the compressor blades there, and the rear exhaust stubs, etc. And that is a nice kit. And then obviously you've got some more airspeed indicators on the end of the sprues here, and that's pretty much the kit in itself. There's not a lot to it. And obviously we've got the cockpit and the actual anti-collision lights, which you can see there. Again, there's a little bit of distortion in the canopy, but it doesn't matter because you're not going to see any of the cockpit detail anyway, unless you scratch build it or 3D print it, possibly. So there you go, and that is basically your kit in one go. Now, obviously, because I'm building this for a personal project, I might hand it on to Alan as a little sort of present, as he basically flew on her a few times. I've actually got some detail upsets just to give it a bit enhance its detail. This is metallic details. Now, I got this off of eBay. They are actually based in Ukraine. They do various internals for airliner kits, ships, etc. So look up their website, which is www.metdetails.com. And so if you want to enhance your kit and show it a little bit extra detail, you've obviously got compressor blades for both engines, some of the exhaust detail and rings, pitot tubes, etc. So I'm going to add these to the kit when I get around to building it. And obviously, because I'm doing this in the retrojet scheme, I managed to get this off of 26 decals. I don't know if it's still available. Again, I would suggest you look on eBay or go to their website. Their decals do look very, very nice actually, and they give you a colour guide. If I take it out of the packet, excuse the singing in the background, it must be somebody's birthday or something. Possibly because it's the bank holiday weekend. There we go. Now, the interesting thing with this is you've got colour call-outs right here. Okay, so you can actually go to the extra colours to use it, which is what I might do. And then obviously, interestingly, the BEA, when they had these aircraft in this scheme for about 58 to 69, they used to tend to have their wings red on the top. This aircraft actually has the red BEA red flag and red wings on the underneath, believe it or not. So there you go, and obviously it's just a little indication of how this is all lined up, etc. And there's your scheme. And to be honest, out of all the schemes that I've seen on the retrojets, I think this is the loveliest and the smartest. I really always like seeing photographs of the old aircraft in this scheme, and this just suits it down to the ground. It's a shame they never got around to doing one in the Speedjack scheme, because that would have just completed it, but there you go. So there you are, and then that's that. And then obviously have a look at the decals themselves. Good quality decals, a little bit shiny, but I should think with some colour solution they'll go down pretty well. With a little bit of microset and microsol, I might even get some UMP decal setting solution. But nice, crisp. They're not out of register, and as I say, obviously I can use these just to sort of blank the cockpit off, as there's no detail there, but beautifully represented on the A319 131. So there you go, and this is basically the scheme I'm going to be actually painting this aircraft in. I do plan on doing one of the jumbos in the BOAC scheme. I know I've got a jumbo in my stash upstairs, which is possibly the one I'm going to do it in, so I'll probably order the decals at a later stage. So I'm just going to try and get these back in the... try and get back in the bag now. But yeah, it's a straightforward basic kit if you can get hold of one of these, and as I say, you might be able to still get hold of this 26 decal sheet, possibly on their website, because I only do them for a limited time. If not, try and source it on eBay if possible. Oh, damn, I can't get the bloody thing back in the packet. This is not easy. I think I'll give up on that one. I'll do it after I've done the video. So basically there you have it. The actual kit decals themselves. Again, you got all the stencils, which you can see there. And then obviously you've got decals for the windows as well. Unfortunately, the German wings is a bit, it's got a bit of coffee or something on it. I don't know what happened there. So I may well source another kit if I do it in the German wings version. But yeah, I won't be using the decals on this because these look as though they've got coffee stain on it. So I may use one or two of them, but yeah, that's going to be interesting. But there you go. So that's it really, guys. So I'm going to finish the video here. As I say, you won't be able to buy this generally now, unfortunately, unless they reissue it next year. But it's a lovely, lovely looking little kit. It seems a straightforward build. With most of, as do most of Revell's airliner kits. And again, you can get super detailed metallic details for these kits just to enhance them a bit more. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. At some point I will do an inbox review of that Spitfire of the Airfix Mark 8 and 1/24. Might do it possibly later this week. We'll see how things go. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. So until the next time, get kit crazy, happy modelling, stay safe, keep well, enjoy your bank holiday weekend, and I'll speak to you soon. Cheers.